We are beginning this morning, though, with that all-important jobs number. 261,000 jobs added to the U.S. economy as unemployment rose to 3.7% in October. Now, as we said, that's a bit of a mixed report coming just days ahead of the midterm elections, where Democrats are struggling to convince voters they can get the job done on the economy. Let's bring in Yahoo Finance's Rick Newman. And Rick, it's interesting because we've been talking so much about these job numbers as in good news and not necessarily good news for the markets. Today, the markets are up. But if you think about where President Biden has positioned himself, especially going into the midterms, is this good news for the Democrats?
I can't tell, honestly. But I mean, let's start with the headline number: 261,000 new jobs. I mean, the strength in the job market is astonishing. Economists keep saying we expect the labor market to slow down. We expect job growth to slow down, and it keeps not slowing down. Now, we are not adding jobs at the pace we were doing right after the COVID downturn, when suddenly every employer had to catch up. But in a normal economy, in a decently growing economy, if you had just 200,000 new jobs per month, that would be a terrific pace of growth. And we've had far more than that all year long, and the slowdown just keeps not coming. And yet, I'm looking at all these analyses today, and everybody's disappointed. Everybody was hoping that there would be clearer signs of a slowing job market. And why is that? Because everybody wants the Fed to stop raising interest rates. And in order to do that, the Fed needs to see signs that a recession is coming, that job gains are slowing, that wage gains are slowing. So, it's great that we're adding all these new jobs, and it's unfortunate that everybody is disappointed about that.
I mean, with that said, Rick, what does this mean in terms of messaging in the final days leading up to the midterms? We've heard the president go out and say, look, the economy is still strong, but voters are looking at where inflation is and saying,
yep.
How do you look at both in context?
Biden cannot win he cannot win this messaging battle. He has had a strong labor market to brag about all year long, and it hasn't worked. And it just tells you how pervasive inflation is. And it tells you how ruinous inflation is for family budgets. I mean, I just did some new analysis this week, and one of the ironies here is that even though inflation is improving, the rate of inflation has declined from a high of 9% down to it's now 8.2%. People are actually saying, giving signs that they are getting more worried about inflation, not less worried. And I think for a couple of reasons. Number one, the longer it lasts, the longer people think it's going to last. So inflation expectations for the next 6 to 12 months are very high. People think these price hikes are going to stay. And I think another thing that's happening is the longer people have to deal with inflation, the more it strains their family budget. So, we got the wage number today, average hourly earnings, 4.7%. Ordinarily, that would be great. But with inflation at 8.2%, your paycheck buys less. People are literally falling behind, and the longer that goes on, the worse it is for the incumbent Democrats. So it looks like Biden and his fellow Democrats are going to lose at least one chamber of Congress next week. I think the only question is, are the polls accurate? If the polls are accurate, then it's going to be a bad night for Democrats. So if Democrats are hoping for anything at all at this point, it's that the polls are wrong.
And really quickly, Rick, for the Republican side of things, they've certainly seen strength in the economy, at least, that they see that things, at least voters are not necessarily optimistic about where the economy is headed. That's positive for the Republicans. They look at the jobs number today. How do you think they spin this one?
It's the same way they've been spinning it. They just keep pointing to inflation, and that's all they need to do. So I don't think you're going to hear any Democrats saying much, Republicans saying much at all about the labor market. They're just going to keep saying Americans cannot afford the basics, and they're not wrong about that.
Yeah, just hammering home the word inflation seems to be working for the Republicans so far. Rick Newman, as always, thanks so much for that.